Well, we will get started in just a little bit. Hope you're having a great weekend so far, and the new year is treating you well. We've got some exciting stuff to go over today. We've not seen this specific machine before. We certainly have seen other rotary machines, but this one has an interesting story, and it has a very, very exciting future with Jackie over in the great state of Tennessee. So a little bit more music, and then we will get rolling. All right. So get to know some new people. If you're in the shadows, come on out and have a little bit of fun today, sharing about your love for sewing machines, vintage, antique, commercial, industrial, household. We cover them all on this channel. All right. We'll start in just a little bit. And for right now, a little bit of Brazilian music. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause the music for a little bit. We're going to jump into this right away because following the live stream today up here in the mountains of southeastern Kentucky, Susie and I have a couple of meetings we have to go to starting around 1 o'clock Eastern. And so I'm going to keep us rolling just so that we can, cover everything we need to cover, and then also be able to get over to the appointments that we need, which are probably about 15 miles, almost 20 miles away. But the machine pretty much tells you right away what she is, doesn't she? You can see in the shot that she's a dressmaker. Well, the thing that you might not know is that there were a number of companies that made dressmaker sewing machines. And this one was made by a US-based company that later ended up moving its operations overseas. So with those few little bit of clues, why don't you type some guesses in the live chat as to who might have made this version of the dressmaker? And if it helps you at all, I'll tell you it's a Model 127. I think I put that in the title. This is a Model 127 dressmaker, and there was a US-based company that made it, and I'll even give you the date or the date time frame. This machine would have come on the scene in the early 1940s. So if that helps you figure out who made the machine, then go ahead and type that in the live chat, and you might get a special gift for participating. So step out of the shadows And yeah, make a guess. Why not? All right, let me put a pause on that music. Let me put a pause on that music. And let me take a look at the live chat right now and see if anyone nailed it. Let's see who tossed out some guesses. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, and Susie, one correction, my dear. Up above in the live chat, you had typed, let's see here, 1277. It's actually model 127. So if you'll go ahead and just retype that in the live chat, this is a model 127 dressmaker. And let's see what guesses we had. It looks like the first guess that came into the live chat was by Tim out of Wisconsin. Tim typed white. Actually, he typed whites. I love it. Tim typed whites, and then he retyped white. And Kathy King typed white. Let's see here. And that's it. Now, Tim nailed it with his second guess, and Kathy King nailed it as well. This particular Model 127 dressmaker was made by the White Sewing Machine Company, and it was made in the United States. White later on ended up selling itself out to a company that is Japanese-based. Does anyone know who that is? Who bought the White Sewing Machine Company and went on to make other dressmaker models, but they weren't made in the U.S. like this one. They were made over in Japan. What company was that? Does anyone know? All right, well, you're guessing that. I'm going to give you a little bit more history on the White Sewing Machine Company. the White Sewing Machine Company came on the scene very, very early compared to other sewing machine manufacturers. They came on the scene right around 1858, which was only 7 years after the Singer Sewing Machine Company came into existence around 1851. And they were founded by Thomas H. White. And he grew the company as a small Massachusetts-based company. And it actually was in his workshop and eventually grew into a major manufacturer. So he started small, kind of like the garage story that we hear about other companies like Bill Gates and others that started on a real small scale. They started in their garage. They started in a workshop, and then all of a sudden they grow into a major sewing machine manufacturer. And within this line of sewing machines that the White Sewing Machine Company made coming off of the East Coast, their rotary machines were incredibly popular. And they called them their family rotary machines, or FR. And they supplied the machines for a major retailer. Does anyone know what major retailer the White Sewing Machine Company supplied their sewing machines for many, 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 many years? What major retailer was that? Type it in the live chat if you know. All right. So we've got a couple of guesses, and it looks like Tim was the first again in the classroom to type in Sears. Sears and Roebuck, right? Well, that happens to be correct. The White Sewing Machine Company was the primary supplier of sewing machines that they went on to private brand on behalf of that major retailer back in the day. And they did it all the way, I think it was into the 1970s. Somebody can double check that, but they worked with Sears for decades, providing sewing machines and really doing a super duper job of private branding machines for that company. Now, Tim had also typed in a guess earlier when I said the White Sewing Machine Company went on to be sold or to be purchased, and they ended up moving their operations over to Japan. In this instance, we hear Janome coming up all the time, but it actually wasn't Janome that purchased the White Sewing Machine Company and went on to make additional dressmaker type models. It was actually Juki. So if anyone wants to do some quick research on the Juki Sewing Machine Company and type in some fun facts about that company in the live chat, that would be super cool because the Juki Sewing Machine Company most often is associated with commercial or industrial machines. I've worked on a number of Jukis over the year, and even since Susie and I came to Kentucky, we spent time with a customer, and I repaired her Juki we'll call it a light industrial machine. I don't remember what the model was, but she was having some issues with it, and I troubleshooted them on the spot in her home, and we got that machine running again. Susie had also given her some great tips on what type of thread she was using and how that was also complicating how the machine was trying to process that thread and how it was trying to run with that thread. So if Susie wants to share a little bit about that in the live chat as well, that would be great. But yeah, Juki took over White and continued to make machines similar to this one. But of course, when you take operations overseas, the materials they use, the quality of engineering, the manufacturing process, and everything else, it changes. It changes. And this particular model that belongs to Jackie out of Tennessee, you can right away look at the finish of it, and it's not a shiny machine like some of the white sewing machines that came out in approximately the same time period. A white rotary machine, like I'll show you on camera real quick, across the workbench over here, which is also a white rotary sewing machine. But it's got that glossy finish, doesn't it? It's got that glitz and glamour. And this one belongs to Thalia out west. She's got a wonderful quilting enterprise that she's building out there. And this was her granny's machine. And it already finished the process of going through the paint shop. And now it's going to go through the process of getting reassembled after a lot of detailed polishing and cleaning, and also combing the paint surface. When you take a machine through the paint shop magic, as careful as we try to mask it off, inevitably you get some overspray in areas where that paint or where that clear coat should not be. And so in this instance, I've got to go through and clean up all that excess overspray so I can get those parts reassembled. With the overspray on there, it adds 1 to 2 millimeters, and those parts will not fit the machine properly. So the process of painting and clear coating a machine is a detailed, complex, lengthy journey, but it's equally as long of a journey to get that machine ready to receive those original parts back again. So, but my point is, and all the blah, 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 is Jackie's machine does not have that glitz and glamour shine to it. And that's because it has a different finish on it. Does anyone know what that finish is called? What is that finish called that's on Jackie's machine? There's a couple names for it, and see if you can nail it. If you can nail it, who knows? Maybe you will receive a special gift. But in the meantime, I'm going to play another song, and this one again is to honor all those that have birthdays in the month of January. Anyone that has a birthday in the month of January, doggone it, happy birthday. All right, I'm going to pause it real quick. Looks like we have a number of very smart people in the classroom. No surprise. No surprise at all. I believe it was Kathy King that was the first in the classroom to type in Godzilla or crinkle finish. And that's exactly what this Model 127 is by White. It's that crinkle or that Godzilla finish. It's really quite attractive. It's really quite lovely. And you never really have to polish it. You don't have to get that glitz and glamour like on Thalia's a white rotary machine where you got to polish it and spit and polish it and all that. This one, you just kind of wipe it down gently with a soft cloth, keep the dust off of it, and you're ready to go to work on this machine right away. So great job on Kathy King's part. Was, oh wait, actually Jenny said both. Jenny said both. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I can read. Now I can read. Goodness gravy. Yeah, Jenny nailed it. That's right. And Kathy King came in right after with crinkle. How did I miss that? I guess it's too early in the morning, and I didn't scroll far enough up. But you're right. Jenny got it first with Godzilla crinkle, and then Kathy King came in second with crinkle as well. So, yeah, if both of those ladies want to reach out after the live stream by text, Susie can type my phone number in and share their address. I know I have Jenny's address out there in Ohio. I don't know if I still have Kathy King's address or not. Kathy King had one in the past, and I don't know if I saved that address or not. But I'd like to mail something special off to Jenny for getting it first as part of the leadership team, and then Kathy King as well, jumping in and nailing, part of the answer as well, calling out the crinkle finish. So it's up to you, ladies. If you want to reach out afterwards, I'll drop something in the mail to you to acknowledge the fact that you jumped into the ring and you did a great job of getting that answer. Now let's get into this a little bit. Let's get into this machine a little bit. I want to share some more fun facts with you. One of the greatest resources for a sewing machine owner generally, and I've got the camera right now at least balanced on top of a box. So if you periodically see a little jiggle like this, it's because I have it on top of a cardboard box right now, because after I did some of the rewiring on Jackie's machine, the foot controller wiring didn't need to be replaced, but all of a sudden I discovered that the White Sewing Machine Company had made the cord, which is a plug-in cord, a little bit shorter in relation to my workbench. So I could not, no matter what I did, I could not get the machine up on the workbench and have that foot controller anywhere close to the floor. So I've got it on top of a school type desk, and I've got the camera on top of a cardboard box that's holding some of my bubble wrap. And so it might be a little bit more of a wiggly jiggly process today as we're doing this live stream. You kind of see my old fashioned school table right there. It's got kind of a distressed look to it. Distressed like the way they painted it. Somebody painted it, maybe one of the school kids back in the day. But at any rate, a different setup today, and that's okay. So as far as, let me move my chairs out of the way, see if I can get closer to the camera. One of the greatest resources for people as they are operating a sewing machine, especially if it's not a machine that's real familiar to them, is going to be an instruction or an owner's manual. I've got to tilt my laptop screen down too, because if I'm sitting down, I can't see the screen. Everyone is always reaching out to me from around the world about, do you have an instruction or an owner's manual for this particular machine? And Jackie sent me her instruction manual. This is what the cover looks like right here. for this rotary sewing machine by White. And one of the first things you see when you open up this book is, other than to the owner over here, you see a picture of a sewing machine needle right there. And it says in bold print, use only this needle. Use only this needle. I'll get even closer so you can see it. And that needle inside of this instruction manual is supposed to be to scale. In other words, if you have a sewing machine needle, you should be able to lay it on this page right here, and it should be identical, or it should be identical to what the manufacturer put inside of their book. I've got a news flash for you, and it's not about all of the horrible drama that's going on in Minnesota right now with that shooting of that lady. But the news flash is they scaled this needle wrong so that it does not measure up to the needle that is needed for this dressmaker by White. And how did I determine that? I determined it using my mechanical caliper, of course. So when you scale this inside of the book, it comes out to be, I'm going to look for my notes. I've got them somewhere. It comes out to be, hold on a second. It comes out to be 47.25 millimeters. So when you take a mechanical caliper and you measure their image, which is supposed to be spot on with what you need for this sewing machine to sew successfully, when you measure it from end to end, I'm going to try to hold it as steady as I can. It comes out to 47.25 millimeters. If you try to operate a needle that is 47.25 millimeters in this White rotary dressmaker machine by White, cause damage to the machine. It's going to potentially hit the bobbin case, which I'll show you that in a little bit, is a very unique bobbin case in this particular machine. It's called the long beak shuttle system, the long beak shuttle system. And you'll see why they gave it that name in just a little bit. But the size needle that you want to use in this dressmaker rotary by White needs to actually be 46 millimeters long, not 47.25. So the correct needle length for this particular machine is 46 millimeters exactly. The image, whoever printed the manual, the image is wrong. And we find that sometimes where when they're putting together these manuals for all of these machines, and sometimes the machine manual will cover more than one model. They sometimes goof up. They sometimes get it wrong. If any of you have ever seen the series Monk, you'll know that Monk's brother actually does manual writing and manual production in the series, at least, for a living. That's what he does. He's isolated in his home. He seldom, if ever, leaves the house. And all he does is write manuals for different products and different appliances, etc. So if Monk's brother had done this manual, he probably would have gotten it right. He probably would have put in an image in there and said, for illustrative purposes only, the actual needle length is 46 millimeters, not 47.25. But the White Sewing Machine Company, when they put this manual together for Jackie's machine that originally belonged to her mom, they didn't get it right. So when you're using a mechanical caliper, and maybe that's what I should send, Susie and I should send out to Jenny and out to Kathy King. Maybe we should send mechanical calipers so they can be our in-field fact checkers when it comes to different things that they discover out there in the sewing world. But I'm just giving you that as a caution because sometimes manufacturers will get it wrong. Now, I've got good news for you. You might be saying, now, wait a second. if the manufacturer got it wrong, how hard is it to find needles for this particular model 127 by White? I've got great news for you. It's not hard at all, because after carefully using my mechanical caliper to measure the original needle that was designed for rotary, and whoops, my hands aren't working so well yet today. Hold on. As I used it to carefully measure the needle that was designed specifically for the rotary series by White, I'm going to set down the caliper. I'll just try to hold the needles. As I measured it, and I got that correct measurement of 46 millimeters, I thought right away, our good friends at Schmetz are on the ball people, and they certainly love contemporary machines, and they have a lot of needles that they offer for contemporary sewists that have non-vintage machines, but they're always a step ahead of everybody else. And so I thought, what is the possibility that a Schmetz Universal 9014 needle will have the same 46 millimeter length as the original White rotary sewing machine needle? They were identical in length. Now, there are certain other attributes of the needle. I'll try to get real close to show you without poking myself. So the Schmetz 9014 universal needle is actually in Jackie's machine right now, and it sews beautifully. But there are some different attributes, or we'll call it needle anatomy. There are certain needle anatomy features of the original rotary needle that are different than the Schmetz needle. Number one, the eye of the needle is placed just slightly different, and it's slightly larger. So the original rotary needles that would have been put out with this machine has a slightly larger eye. It has a slightly larger scarf. It has a slightly larger butt of the needle down here on the end that slides up into the needle socket. So the needles are identical in length, but when it comes down to the anatomy of the needle, they are slightly different. But the differences are not so dramatic that you can't use a Schmetz needle in this model and have great success. Now, I'm going to ask someone to capture from the needle anatomy standpoint. I'm going to ask somebody to capture the needle points or the needle description in the live chat. So starting on the end of the needle over here, most people know that we call that, hold on a second, the needle tip or the needle point. The needle or the needle tip or the needle point is the first point over here. Then we move into the scarf region. And again, the scarf region on the original needle on top, the Schmetz needle is on the bottom. The scarf on the original rotary needle that would have been distributed with this machine is just slightly larger to accommodate that hook system. But the Schmetz needle has enough clearance, it still grabs the thread beautifully. Right after the scarf, we then move into the eye of the needle, and we move into the short groove on this side. On the other side of the needle, we have the long groove. And then we have the blade of the needle, the shoulder of the needle, the shank of the needle, and finally at the very top on the far right, we have the butt of the needle, B-U-T-T. So going from right to left, the butt, the shank, the shoulder, the blade, the short groove on this side, the eye of the needle, the scarf of the needle. It's actually the scarf first and then the eye of the needle. And then the point or the tip of the needle. So all in all, we have a total of 10 anatomy pieces of the needle, if you didn't know that. When you look at a needle, most people just say, oh, there's the eye of the needle. There's the scarf of the needle. Those people that actually know what a scarf is, where that hook passes by and grabs the thread. But most other people don't know the other anatomy portions of the needle. So now you do. And I'll say them one more time so somebody can type them into the live chat so everyone else can learn from our classroom as well. So from left to right, we've got the tip or point. We've got the scarf. We've got the eye of the needle. We've got the short groove on this side of the needle. Then we have the blade, the shoulder, the shank, and the butt. So all in all, 10 different attributes or anatomy parts of the needle. And the long groove is going to be opposite of the short groove on the other side of the needle. So hopefully that helps teach you something new about needle anatomy. And also when you come into using a rotary machine like this, if you can't find an original rotary type needle, you know now that at least on the white version, this model 127, you can use a standard Schmetz needle and just put that flat side to the right. The flat side of the needle will go to the right on this machine, and you'll want to slide it all the way up in that needle socket. This needle socket is a real deep needle socket, and if you don't get it all the way up there, your timing of the machine and potential damage to the hook assembly is going to occur. So take your time, slide that needle way up into that socket, making sure it goes all the way to the tippy top, and then you can commence sewing using a standard Schmetz 9014 needle with that flat side again to the right. And then you'll be threading this needle from left to right, from left to right. And the threading of this machine is a little bit tricky. I'll kind of walk you through it briefly. The owner's manual covers it, but it doesn't do a real good job of illustrating one of the steps that has to be done to be successful. Here on page 8, it walks you through the general steps of threading this model 127, but it doesn't describe this process in here real well, and it can trip some people up. I've seen a number of people on the internet that will thread it up just like they see it in this diagram, and then they'll commence sewing, and they have a bird nest on the bottom of the material because the upper tension is not threaded properly. And part of that might be down here. It also might be up here as well, because when you're threading this, most often when we look at a take-up arm like this, we're going to be threading it from left to right. But in this instance, we have to thread it from right to left and then commence that threading process going down to the needle here. So I'll try to cover that a little bit on my cardboard table. And that way give you some good tips, hopefully, that will help you to figure out how to get this machine set up to sew. At least knowing that we can use a Schmetz needle opens up the gateway of possibilities quite a bit. Now I'm going to show you real quick the part of the wiring that I replaced, and hopefully you can see, and it's evident why it needed to be replaced. I'll hold it up against the background of the manual, and you can see that the insulation on this wiring that basically came into the light assembly off of the motor. It was in real bad shape on certain parts of it, exposed wire. And so if you have an older rotary machine like Jackie's, you want to be extra careful. Be extra careful that you check that wiring even before you plug it in, because if you've got the two wires touching at some point, you're going to get a real surprise when you plug it in, right? You're going to get a real surprise. So check your machine for wiring, whether it's newer, older, whether it's been in your family forever, or whether you recently acquired it, and check for that insulation cracking and getting brittle. It just happens over time, and it can expose those wires both outside and also inside of the foot controller, inside of the motor. It can create a lot of danger to the sewing process. So I'm going to double check my notes to see what else I wanted to cover. Oh, let me give you a quick little math test. Let me give you a quick little math test early here on a Saturday morning. And if you're out west in California, Washington State, it's even earlier for you. So I shouldn't complain about being in the eastern region of the United States. But I can tell you that on the back of this motor, and it's got a unique motor on it. It's not a belt-driven motor. It's a pulley-driven motor. And that's one of the things I had to do to Jackie's machine is replace this pulley right here. And as you're storing this machine, you want to make sure that you put something in between the wheel, the pulley wheel, and the balance wheel. And you can do that very easily. I've got a little circular tab here that I can slide in. I'm going to try to do it one-handed, kind of rotate the motor out, and then put this in between the pulley and the motor itself and the balance wheel. And the reason we do that is if you leave the pulley pressing against the balance wheel, it's going to create a dimple on that pulley, and then it's not going to run smooth against the balance wheel. It's going to get like a bumpity bump. So whenever you're not using the machine, whenever you're storing the machine, you put something in between the pulley and the balance wheel, and it will preserve the integrity and the shape of this pulley that drives the balance wheel. So this is a direct drive machine, isn't it? It's a direct drive machine because you don't have a belt. The pulley goes right up against here, and then that pulley transfers from the output pulley of the motor directly to the balance wheel, and it gives you a lot of drive, a lot of force right away that's driven down to that needle, which in our instance is a Schmetz needle. It's not an original rotary needle. And that plate I'm talking about is right here on the back of the motor. You can kind of see it right there. And that's where you find out that the machine was made in the U.S. and it was made by the White Sewing Machine Company. But you also find out other particulars about that machine, and that is the size of the motor that it has. The size of the motor, I'm going to give you some specs real quick, and if someone wants to Google it to tell us what size motor from an amperage standpoint this white rotary dressmaker model 127 has, then yeah, maybe we'll reach out to you as well, or you can reach out to us as well if you get it right after the live stream, and I'll send you something special as well, along with Kathy King and Ginny out of the great state of Ohio. I like giving stuff away. You guys know that. I love giving stuff away, and it's fun also to reward people that step out of the shadows and they get out there and they say, "Hey, I'm gonna post an answer. I'm gonna take a dangerous step here, and I'm gonna step into the live chat and I'm gonna post an answer. I've been watching this channel for years. I've never stepped out. Scott keeps telling us, step out, step out, step out. You know why? Because stepping out is really quite.
That was easy.
It's quite easy.
That was easy.
Yeah, no one's going to bite you. No one's going to scold you. No one's going to make fun of you if you get the wrong answer. No one's going to do that because the leadership team is there to monitor for bullies. The leaders monitor people, and we've got a very family-friendly setting. But if someone gets to be a bully and making fun of someone else, posting an answer that wasn't right, that person's probably going to get a timeout from one of the leadership team members. So be nice. Be nice and be courageous and step out and see if you can nail it. So the attributes of this motor on the back of Jackie's machine is it is powered by 115 amps. Okay? It's powered by 115 amps, and it's rated at an 80-watt motor. So it's an 80-watt electric motor powered by 115 volts. And that's what you need. You need to know the volts and you need to know the watts in order to figure out the amperage of any motor. And you can do that on any of your sewing machines. If you go to your motor and you find out what the volts are, some are powered by 115 volts, some are powered by 125 volts. Our European counterparts are powered by usually anywhere from 220 to 250 volts. If you know the volts and you know the watts, you can come up with the amperage. So if someone wants to do the math, taking into account that Jackie's direct drive pulley driven motor by White is powered by 115 volts and it's rated at 80 watts, you can come up with the amperage for this motor. So anyone that's willing to do that, do it. Get in there and be courageous. Type it in the live chat. If you're the first one to do it and get it right, the leadership team will recognize you. They'll reach out to me and say, hey, so-and-so did this. We told them to reach out to you, and you'll send them something special. Yeah, I will. I got all kinds of special things that I can mail out to the Cow Country family that steps out and is courageous in posting answers in the live chat. And we don't need an audience of thousands to do that. We can have a small audience and still have someone reach out and post that answer. So yeah, do that. Do that. Have fun. And I'm going to take a drink of tea real quick and also put on a little bit of music while you are doing that. Hold on real quick. I also have to check a text message. I got a text message real quick from someone. Oh, Kathy King. Kathy King reached out and shared her address with me so we can send something special to her for participating. And I will tell you that Kathy King is located in the South. I thought Susie and I were in the South here in southeastern Kentucky, but Kathy King is really in the South, way, way down in the state of Florida, down in Florida. So that'll be fun to mail off a surprise to Kathy King in Florida for stepping out of the shadows and doing a great job in posting that answer in the live chat. Yeah, fantastic. All right, a little bit of music so I can get a sip of tea and soothe my voice a little bit, and then we'll jump on to some more fun trivia type stuff, okay? Yeah. How about a little bit of marching music for the new year? Yeah, a little bit of marching music. All right, I'm going to pause our marching music real quick. It doesn't look like anyone wanted to take a swing at doing math this early in the morning. So I'm going to give you the answer, and I'll tell you that if you Google what is the amperage of an electric motor that is powered by 115 volts and rated at 80 watts, you're going to find out that this direct drive pulley driven motor on Jackie's machine rates out to be 0.7 amps. 0.7 amps. And it looks like right as I was saying that, my lovely wife Susie posted the answer. So 0.7 amps is correct. That's quite a bit of power. Most of the Singer models, many of the Singer models are going to be rated around 0.6 amps, including the other motor that is on Jackie's 99K on the other workbench. You can see it right over there. That 99K over there has a Singer motor on it that's rated right around 0.6 amps. So the Dressmaker model by White actually has a larger amperage motor than a lot of the Singer class machines, including the class 66 machines that are so popular on this channel. Very, very, very popular. Matter of fact, I'm doing some finishing work right now on a class 66 over here. It's a treadle that was utterly devastated when it was dropped on a hard floor and it broke off the back of the machine. You've heard this story many times. This machine was also in a fire, but I took it through the paint shop magic, and now this 66-1 looks like it just came out of the factory, doesn't it? But the point is that this 0.7 amp direct drive motor, it's got a lot of kick. It's got a lot of drive, and you don't have to worry generally. You don't have to worry generally about that slippage of belt on this machine. Sometimes the pulley will skip a little bit on the balance wheel as it's grabbing that balance wheel, because there's a spring that pushes that motor into the balance wheel. So it's not just gravity. It's actually got some level of force with that spring that makes sure that that pulley stays on that balance wheel and gets the best drive possible. But yeah, 0.7 amps, that's a good amount of power. That's a good amount of power. And we're going to see that demonstrated during this live stream today. I'm also going to show you the unique bobbin that this rotary style machine takes. We're actually going to look at the bobbin that's in the machine in a little bit, but I'll give you a preview of it. This is the bobbin that goes into a rotary machine like this. We oftentimes talk about the class 15 bobbins being huge. This one is equally huge as well. It holds a lot of thread, and the circumference of this bobbin, I'll see if I can give you some quick measurements using our mechanical caliper. I don't know if there's a lot of rotary bobbins aftermarket that are out there, because they're really difficult to manufacture because of the contours, and the dimensions of the bobbin alone are huge. So if I hold this bobbin up like this, I'm going to measure the height of it, or the width of it. I guess I'd call it the width. And the width of this bobbin is going to be right around 11.5 millimeters. So that's from measuring the bobbin like this, right around 11.5 millimeters. If I measure the height of it, if we're going to call this the height, we're looking at a height that is right around 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 millimeters. So those are the dimensions, 31 millimeters like this. If I hold it like that, 31 millimeters like that. And the width of it, if we measure it like this, is going to be right around 11.5 millimeters. So 11.5 by right around 30 millimeters like that. Okay, so that'll give you a little bit of a baseline if you come across a bobbin, to know, because there are other bobbins that resemble this one. You'll be able to know whether or not that's the correct bobbin for your machine. And whenever you're testing out a bobbin in a machine, if you're not sure, always hand turn that balance wheel. Don't hit the motor. Hand turn the balance wheel. And if you're working with a rotary machine, you've got to remember that that balance wheel is not going to be going forward. It's going to be going backwards. As we're operating this rotary machine, that balance wheel is actually turning to the rear. If you were looking at it from the side, it would be going clockwise versus counterclockwise, like most every other sewing machine you're going to be seeing on this channel. So remember that about the rotaries. If you're threading them up, if you're trying to draw that thread out of the bobbin case and you're turning the balance wheel forward on a rotary machine, you're going to be turning it forward for a very, 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 very long time and never get that thread to come up. You've got to turn the balance wheel to the rear to pull that thread up as you're setting the machine up to sew. Okay? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind so you can have success. I'm going to do my best to try to move my cardboard box to the side of the machine, and we're going to remove that long beak shuttle, and we're going to take a closer look at it. We're also going to figure out how that thing threads. It's a little bit tricky to thread, but not too bad. And the owner's manual does cover it, but again, like a lot of things, the owner's manual will use illustrations or use arrows, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing on what do I pull it this way, or do I go that way? Do I go behind this? Do I go in front of this? How do I set this thing up to sew? Well, that's an important thing to know, isn't it? So let me see if I can move my cardboard box over to the side set my camera down so it's a little bit more stable, hopefully. And I'll give you one more exercise if you're game for it. I'll give you one more exercise. The other machine I showed you that belongs to Jackie, it's a 99K. I'm going to give you the serial number. And if someone wants to look it up using an online resource like Ismax, if you reach out after the live stream, if you get it right, I might send you something special as well. I'm going to be spending a lot of time packaging things and at the post office in Middlesboro, Kentucky, mailing off surprise gifts to a lot of people, right? But that's fun. It's fun to send surprises, isn't it? So give me 1 second here. I'm going to give you the serial number of Jackie's other machine that's in the workshop right now, that 99K. In the meantime, I'll let you look at part of the threading on this machine. That's fun. And I'll give you the serial number for Jackie's 99K. I've already told you what it is, so that's a big help, isn't it? So this is going to be a three-phase question. This is going to be a three-phase question. First of all, I'll give you the serial number, but then I'm going to ask you two additional questions. So I'm not going to make this really, really easy. If you're going to get a special gift from the wizard and from Susie, then I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging. I don't want to make it too easy. So the serial number on Susie's other machine that I showed you on the other workbench, that one right over there. Where is it? Aha, there it is. The serial number for that other machine is E like Echo, F like Foxtrot, 635062. So E like Echo, F like Foxtrot, 635062. And what I'm looking for is the date of manufacturing, the month, the day of the year, and then also the production group size. How many machines were made in that production group class? It'll tell you that as well. And then beyond that, if you can tell me in that series of EF, Echo Foxtrot, in that series of EF, what year, what is the date of the first machine for the 99K series made in that class series? In other words, when you look up the EF class, how many, excuse me, my throat's going. What was the first 99K series made in the EF series, the month, the day, and the year? And what was the last 99K made in the EF series, the month, the day, the year? So I'm going to send you a real special gift if you get this one right, because I'm asking you to tell me what year was Jackie's machine made, the month, the day, and the year. How many of the machines were made in that production series? What was the first 99K series made in the EF series? And what was the last 99K made in the EF series? That's a lot of information. That's a lot of information to try to document. And I will see if I can take a quick screenshot of my notes, and then I will send it to, who will I send it to? Maybe I'll send it to Jenny. Let me see if I can send it to Jenny. I've got to look up her number first. Hold on a second. Just bear with me for a second. I'm dealing with a very slow phone. A very slow phone. My phone is, I don't know, I probably should replace it, but you're used to something. It's like an old pair of shoes, and you're just really reluctant to change. You know what I mean? You're just really reluctant to change. Okay, so I found Jenny's phone number. I'm going to text her the answers so that we'll give just a few minutes for somebody to try to guess. And if no one guesses, then Jenny can look at my crib notes and she can post the answers. All right, hang on a second. My phone is deciding whether or not it wants to open the camera. All right. Okay, so I just took a picture. I'm sending it over to Jenny, one of the leadership team members in Ohio, and then she'll have the answers. And in just a minute or so, if no one guesses the date for Jackie's other machine, again, the serial number I gave is E like Echo, F like Foxtrot, 635062. And if no one posts the month, the day, and the year, and how many were made in that production series, and then the first 99K series made in the EF series, and the last 99K made in the EF series, then Jenny will go ahead and post that. And that way it's in the live chat, and someone watching this later as a video will have the benefit of knowing that information. Who knows? Maybe it'll serve them in some way and help them out. Okay. So I sent it to Jenny. If Jenny wants to let me know that she got it, that would be great. That way I've got that base covered. As a backup plan, if Jenny for some reason needed to step away, I'll send it also to Teresa as a backup plan. So I've got two of my leadership team members that have that information and can post that information, but I'll give Jenny the first swing at it, and then I'll give Teresa the second swing if Jenny for some reason had to step away or is not able to, maybe she doesn't have cell service, there could be an outage or something like that. Then she's got that we've got Teresa as our backup plan. Okay, so I just sent it to Teresa as well. And that way that information, okay, Jenny got it. So Jenny and Teresa have it now. Jenny can count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, whatever she wants to do, and then go ahead and post that info about Jackie's other machine, and then the 99K series machine that came out first in the EF series and the one that came out last in that series of EF. Perfect. Okay, thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay. Hold on real quick. I'm going to do another sip, and then we're going to take a look at this long beak shuttle system. It's a very unique system, and it has a slightly unique approach to threading it that you got to get right. Otherwise, the machine is not going to be happy. All right, I'm going to pause it real quick. I'm going to try to tilt this dressmaker back a little bit. And I'm going to do my best to, let me see if I can grab my other little brick lifter here. I've got that holding down the foot controller. I'm going to tilt this back, and we're going to take a look at that shuttle system in this 1941 approximately dressmaker rotary. I'm going to tilt it back a little bit. And I'll slide my brick underneath the front of it. Try to hold it up. Okay, I've got her held up pretty much. Let me adjust the camera now. Got to tilt my laptop screen again so I can see what you all are seeing. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do is take this plate off. You push this in, and then it just lifts right off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll just lift that off and move that out of the way. So we've got a fairly clear shot to the shuttle down there. And you can see right away, hopefully you can see right away. I don't why it's called a long beak shuttle. I'll tilt my screen more on the laptop. You can tell right away why it's called the long beak shuttle, because it has that extension point right here on top that almost looks like a beak, doesn't it? It kind of looks like a beak. And to get this out, we're going to go ahead. I've got so many different spots I set stuff down in. I'm looking for my, oh, there they are. Got them. Doing a live stream, Susie says you're like a juggler. Susie describes me as a juggler because I'm juggling so many things while I'm doing a live stream, doing all this solo. If I had an assistant, boy, it would be nice. So you see this little tab right here that I'm touching. We're going to push that in, and then it's going to allow us to remove the long beak shuttle. So I'm going to try to reach underneath and use my finger like this to push it up, and then I'll grab the long beak kind of in the middle, get my little fingers around it, big fingers, and I'll pull it out. So now we got our long beak shuttle out of the machine. You can kind of get a closer look at it. It's a lot different than a standard bobbin, isn't it? It's very, very different looking. And even the way it manages tension is different because it's going to have that plate and it's going to use that long beak to regulate that upper tension, which if it's doing a great job, it's going to allow us to have a fabulous looking lock stitch. If it's not doing a great job, it's going to struggle, isn't it? It's going to struggle for sure. So I'll go ahead and, well, I should point out, first of all, this is our adjusting screw right here on the front. If we turn it clockwise, we're going to be able to tighten it a little bit more to increase the definition of that lock stitch. If we turn it counterclockwise, we're going to take away from that lock stitch and give more to that top stitch. Think of this as pulling down. It's pulling down to define that top stitch as the upper tension is pulling up to define the lock stitch. So this is pulling down, upper tension, pulling up. So they're tug of warring. If I turn it clockwise, it's going to pull down a little bit harder to define that top stitch. If I turn it counterclockwise, it's going to de-emphasize that top stitch a little bit more. But if we take it apart, take that bobbin out, you're going to see straight away that the thread is coming over the top. The thread's coming over the top. So when we put it back together, we want to make sure that that thread is over the top and get it assembled properly. We're going to do a little bit of cleaning on it first. I got to kind of pull that thread out. I'll set down my bobbin. Now we just have the shuttle itself, which kind of looks like this on the inside and like that on the outside. We'll use our regular method of a little bit of rubbing alcohol first to swab the inside of that shuttle. And don't make the Q-tip soaking, just dampen it a little bit. So I'm just going to swab the inside of that shuttle a little bit to kind of clean it up a little bit. And also this inside plate a little bit as well, because that's going to be part of our tension area. You could take this screw all the way out if you were really ambitious, and this whole plate from here to here to here comes off, and then you can clean underneath the area of that long beak as well. If you want to do that, you can certainly do that. I'm not going to demonstrate that in the live stream today, but that's not a bad thing depending on the thread that you're sewing with periodically. You can do it with other bobbin cases as well. Remove the entire, I call it kind of a plate that presses down on the thread. It's kind of it's a tension plate. And there are little thread remnants and dirt that can collect underneath here that we can't reach with this Q-tip. So periodically, maybe once a year, taking your plate off of your bobbin case and cleaning underneath it would be a good practice. Just be careful. Be careful you don't bend it or break it, or that you don't lose that little screw that holds it in either. So I just kind of swabbed a little bit, kind of cleaned it up a little bit. I'll throw that dirty Q-tip to the side. It didn't get real dirty because I cleaned it before the live stream, but you can see there is a little bit of dirt and stuff that collects on there. Just a little bit. And then I'll take my kerosene crystal white type oil, put just a little dab on this Q-tip, and we'll just put a little bit of lubrication on the inside of that shuttle so that that huge bobbin that turns in the sewing process can turn more easily. Just kind of swab the inside a little bit, and the post that the bobbin mounts on as well. Now, this is a smaller hole that mounts on this rotary, so I don't know if I can get my Q-tip in there. It actually won't fit in there. So normally I would slide the Q-tip in there as well and swab the inside of that. But in this instance, I've got to use probably, what do they call them, a rat tail or something like that, and go through there and kind of swab through there and clean that out. Might be another option for you. Unless you buy the real cheapy Q-tips, and then maybe you could fit a Q-tip in there and swab the inside of that area. Now, once we're going to reassemble it, that's where the little bit of a tricky part comes in. Not too much. We've got our bobbin right there. We've got our long beak shuttle. We're going to slide it again with the thread coming over the top, kind of like this. And then I'll show you before I do it because it's a little tricky. The first point the thread is going to go through is this little notch right here. We're going to draw the thread into this little notch right there. And then we've got to go across the long beak right through here. And we've got to come through a notch. You can see it from the back side. We've got to come through a notch right here and then draw that thread from that notch up through the front of the long beak shuttle right there. I'll do my best to demonstrate it so you can see it, but it's a little bit, you have to kind of wiggle that bobbin out to get into that second slot place a little bit. So I'm going to slide my bobbin again with the thread over the top. I'll come through that first notch. There we go. Got it through that first notch. Now we're going to bring the thread across like this behind the long beak shuttle. Don't take it through the shuttle yet, the long beak part. We have to go through another little hook on the back side of it over here, kind of come over and down. And then I might have to take that bobbin out just slightly to get into that hook assembly. There we go. I was able to drop it in behind there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this thread all the way to the top of the long beak so it's coming out the top like this. And now the thread is actually coming out the very top, the tip top of the long beak after I've drawn that through. And as a final check, you can just see, you kind of pull it like this, and the bobbin is going to be turning clockwise. Okay, that's how you thread a long beak shuttle. Point number A, right over here through that slat, across the long beak, down through another slat that you can't see right now because it's behind the bobbin, and then back up the front, right over here, between that pressure plate and that long beak right there, drawing it out the top so that it's like this right here. Okay? I hope that helps. I hope that helps. It's a little bit tricky with these long beak shuttles. And the other maintenance we can do is we can take a Q-tip with a little bit of oil and swab the inside of that hook assembly area as well, inside of there. Grab another Q-tip, and I'll put just a little bit of kerosene oil mix. And those of you that are real new to this channel or watching this later as a video, you might say to yourself, well, I get the sewing machine oil, and I get the benefits of the crystal white sewing machine oil, which doesn't stain, it doesn't have coloring in it, it doesn't create some of the issues that the other ones that have the coloring in it can cause. But why the kerosene? Kerosene is a really, really long-lasting lubricant. It lasts longer than any of the sewing machine oils that I know of. And it doesn't leave any deposits behind. And also it inhibits rust as well. So if you have a machine, if you're in a damper climate like Florida, Louisiana, you've got a lot of humidity, you want to use a mixture of sewing machine oil that's crystal white. It doesn't have that yellow color to it. It's see-through, and then add a little bit of kerosene to it. It's going to prevent your machine from rusting from the inside out. And that's what will happen in those more humid climates, is it will tend to create rust issues for you. I'm just swabbing the inside of that raceway a little bit, swabbing the mounting point for the bobbin case, the long beak shuttle, kind of just swabbing that out a little bit. Not real dirty, but we got a little bit more dirt out of there. You can kind of see that. And I would recommend cleaning your raceway, removing your bobbin case, cleaning your raceway, cleaning your bobbin case itself about every 8 to 10 hours of sewing. About every 8 to 10 hours of sewing, I would go ahead and remove your bobbin case, remove your bobbin, swab it like I showed you with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, then follow up with a good sewing machine oil like Crystal White, and then swab gently the inside of the raceway as well to maintain that brain center for the sewing machine. That's really what your raceway is, where that bobbin sits. It's your brain center. It's where all the magic happens. It's where you're able to create that magical stitch using that bobbin case, using that upper tension, using that hook system, and you're able to make the magic of projects. You have to keep that magic area as clean and as well lubricated as possible. Don't soak it with oil. Just a light coat will do. So now we're going to reinsert our long beak shuttle back into the raceway again. I've got to hit that little tab again. so that I can reinsert the long beak. I'll kind of push it in a little bit to pull that little finger back. You can see that little finger coming back. And now I'll slide that long beak back in again so that we can actually sew with this machine, hopefully during the live stream. And it doesn't snap in. A long beak shuttle does not snap in like a lot of our bobbin cases will. It slides in there, and then this little finger that I'm about to release will hold it in place. And now if I try removing it, it's locked in there, so it's ready to sew. I'm going to go ahead and drop my thread underneath the carriage of the machine. I'll take out my little brick here. I don't know if you can see my brick or not. I've got it in here to hold the bed up right now. And I'll lower the machine back down very carefully. Oh, and I should mention while we're here, if you're curious where the serial number is on a white rotary by white like this, it's right underneath the bed area right here. I'll show it to you. Got a little plate that's stamped to the bottom of the bed, and then you can see the model 127 and then the serial number that follows after it. And there are some resources online to look up serial numbers for the white sewing machines. I don't spend a lot of time there, but if you want to do that with your white sewing machine, by all means do that. I think that'd be great. All right, I'm going to put my brick back down on my foot controller. I'm really kind of a MacGyver today with my setup. Got to get my foot controller back where I can reach it. Put my brick on it so it's not sliding all over the cement floor. And I hope those little tips I'm giving you, I hope what I tried to show you with the camera in that, as far as the long beak shuttle system and that, I hope that's helpful to you. I really do. I hope you're like, yeah, I didn't know that. That's really cool. That really helps me. I was struggling with that, and I went to my owner's manual, and the owner's manual wasn't super clear on, well, how do you do that? And now I've seen it done, and now I know what to do. Because being able to enjoy your sewing machine means that you set it up properly. It means that you're able to sit down to it confidently and know that it's going to do what you want it to do, right? All right, so let's go ahead and pull that thread up. I'll kind of hold the thread. And again, as I'm trying to pull this thread up, which way am I rotating the balance wheel? Am I rotating it forward or am I rotating it backwards? If someone would type that into the live chat, that would be great. So as I'm trying to pull this thread up, we just put the long beak shuttle back in. I showed you how to thread it. I showed you how to clean it. And now we're trying to get that thread to come up so we can actually sew with Jackie's machine. Do I rotate the balance wheel to the rear Or do I rotate the balance wheel to the front as we do with many, many, many sewing machines on this channel? If someone wants to type that into the live chat, I would appreciate it. In the meantime, I'm going to rotate the balance wheel, but you can't see which way I'm rotating it. And I'm going to try to draw that thread back up. I'm used to doing it with my right hand. It's a lot easier. All right. Let me do it with my right hand. I like my right hand better. I may have to reinsert that bobbin, that long beak again. I'm having trouble pulling that thread up. It's a good illustration, isn't it? The challenges you can encounter. Let me try that again. I'm just going to double check my threading. My threading is correct. All right, we'll try inserting that long beak one more time. There we go. I might have had that thread kind of caught between the long beak shuttle edge and the inside of that raceway. It may have been caught in there a little bit. I don't think it was, but for whatever reason, I couldn't pull that thread up right away. Now, any of you that were guessing, and I can't see the live chat right now because the laptop is behind me, or it's in front of me, actually to the left, I mean. You're going to rotate that balance wheel to the rear. Rotate the balance wheel to the rear. And whereas most of the time we would be rotating that balance wheel towards us, we don't do that. We don't do that. Yeah, backwards. Yeah, rotate it to the back. Exactly right. So we have our thread up now. We can finally try sewing something. And I did replace Jackie's old incandescent bulb with a, oh, I should put my plate back on first, shouldn't I? So as you're putting this plate back on, although it would be fun to watch the activity down here, wouldn't it? Put it back on, just slide it underneath the edge of the needle plate, and then go ahead and push this, and it'll drop straight down and locks in place, okay? All right, let me do this. Let me go ahead and get some material in place. We'll sew some basic cotton. We'll sew some basic cotton. I should also walk you around the machine a little bit and show you the threading on this machine, which is just a little bit tricky. Not too bad, a little bit tricky. Or maybe I'll do that at the end so we can move forward. Let me sew like this. But I will walk you around the machine a little bit first. Let me do that. A real simple machine to figure out once you get the machine set up to sew. This is our upper tension control right here. You can see as we push it up, it gets looser. As we push it down, it gets tighter. So if we want more tension to define that lock stitch, we're going to be moving this lever down. If we want less emphasis on that lock stitch, we're going to be moving this lever up. So up or down is really, that's it. And it's going to use a unique process of this plate right here that's going to rise and lower when we release the presser foot lever in the back. It's going to rise and lower, allowing us to maintain tension underneath this plate. So it doesn't use conventional discs. It uses the whole plate assembly that's on the front of the faceplate to either press in against the thread as it's feeding or to release that so we can advance the thread in the sewing process. So that's our upper tension right there. There's our branding plate, Dressmaker Rotary, 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 rotary. And then our light assembly attaches right to the bottom of the arm here. That was part of what we had to rewire, this light assembly right here. I'm pointing at the motor, I think. There we go. Yeah, kind of a unique spoon style light system. I like it. It's kind of cool. Kind of a spoon style, kind of directs that light down on the bed. I'm not going to have the light on for most of the live stream, but I'll turn it on to show you how well this replacement light does. Does a fabulous job of lighting that bed. And it's putting out probably about 4 to 5 times more light than an incandescent light bulb would. Really does an excellent job. Over here, we've got our stitch length control. And the unique thing about a number of the rotaries, including this white Model 127, is that with this system, you can adjust the stitch length not only going forward, but you can also do it when you're going backwards as well. A lot of sewing machines will give you a standard stitch length when you're sewing in reverse, when you're back tacking. And if you want to back tack with a different stitch length on a lot of the sewing machines, you can't do it. But on this white rotary Model 127, you can regulate the stitch length going backwards just as well as you can forward by moving this lever down into that range past that demarcation line right there. As soon as you go behind that demarcation line, you're going to be back tacking, and you can decide what stitch length you want, real short or real long if you move it all the way to the bottom. So that's a unique feature on this machine for sure, that you can regulate stitch length forward and reverse. Now this bobbin up here, this bobbin, you can just tell that I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm operating on fumes, but I'm doing my best. This spool pin up here, this spool pin up here is what you're going to be using if you're winding a bobbin. You're going to come off of the thread right here. You're going to come over to the right here between the balance wheel, and you're going to go underneath this little guide right here and then draw it from right to left down into these tension discs right here. From right to left into these tension discs from the top, and then you're going to drop straight down then to your bobbin mount right here. And to engage it, you're just going to push this little lever up so that it's making contact with the balance wheel. And then, of course, disengage your clutch over here. You'll have to hold the balance wheel and then turn this towards you to disengage the clutch. Otherwise, your needle is going to be moving while you're winding the bobbin. And then once you're done, just go ahead and push this back down. And then this bobbin winder tire is no longer making contact with the balance wheel. I also had to replace this as well. And I didn't have the right size bobbin winding tire, so I used a grommet. I actually used a grommet from my grommet assortment kit. So if you get into a pinch sometimes and you're wanting to replace your bobbin tire, you either don't have the right size or it doesn't fit as far as the clearance between the winder and the balance wheel, you can look at a grommet set as a backup. I'll actually show you my grommet set. You can pick it up at Harbor Freight. You can pick it up at Harbor Freight or one of the other places that sell grommet sets. See if I can reach it. It's way up on the edge of the shelf. So this is what a grommet set looks like right here. This one has 180 pieces, and it's by a company called Storehouse, which is going to be one of the brands that you'll find in Harbor Freight, and some of the other suppliers offer them as well. You got different size grommets you can use in lieu of a bobbin winding tire. And inside of the case, if I open it, you can kind of see some of the grommets that they have. Some that are ridiculously tiny, like this one right here, all the way up to a monster one like this. And the only difference between a grommet, using it as a bobbin winding tire, and a traditional bobbin winding tire is you're going to have that opening right in the middle, which really doesn't affect anything as far as driving that bobbin winder and allowing you to wind a bobbin. Just gives you another avenue, so you don't have to go to Pinterest or Etsy or eBay and try to find a bobbin winding tire for your vintage sewing machine, whether it's a rotary like this or another sewing machine. Grommets are a great MacGyver hack to give you an option to have a lot better success winding the bobbin without having to search out a bobbin winding tire, if that makes sense. What else was I going to show you? I think that's it. I think that's about it, other than the motor in the back. The motor in the back giving you that positive traction. Okay, let me stop blah, blah, blahing. We'll sew down this 2 layers of 100% cotton with a stiffener first. And I'll leave the light off for now. When Jackie's using this, I'm sure she's going to turn the light on, and it just brings that bed to life so you can see things easily. If you all want to give me feedback, if on your side you can see better with the light on, I'll leave the light on. But sometimes it creates a little bit of a glare, especially with this chrome plate right there. So we'll try it with the light on for a little bit, then I'll shut the light off. Okay, so I've got the stitch length set on a forward stitch right now at the longest length. I'm going to go ahead and take my take-up arm up to the highest position like I normally do. And again, I'm pushing the balance wheel to the rear, not forward. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do our first sew off. I'm going to push my chair back a little bit. We'll do our first sew off on 100% cotton. And then we're going to be, I better direct my camera down. Aha. And then we're going to be trying a number of other materials, including a variety of leathers too. Okay, so here we go. I'm pushing the gas, and let's give this a go. Here we go. I love the sound of a rotary. It just sounds like it's growling almost. Sounds like it's growling. And again, we're sewing with a Schmetz 9014 needle. If you joined us a little bit late and you're saying, what kind of needle does that machine take? Well, it takes an original rotary needle, which again is different than what they show in the book as far as length. If you joined us a little bit late, the book got it wrong. The book shows you a needle image that shows it being 47.25 millimeters long, when in fact the rotary needle you want to use is only 46 millimeters long. And that happens to be exactly the same length as the Schmetz needle. Isn't that convenient? Schmetz is like, all right, that weirdo Scott that's always doing weird stuff with their needles, we're going to make it easy for him. We're going to give him a needle that will work in that rotary machine and also generate a gorgeous stitch. Look at that stitch. It's absolutely spot on. Let me adjust my laptop screen again. Hold on a second. I'm sitting on a lower chair, so I'm having trouble seeing the laptop screen. Okay, so here's our sew off that we just did. Again, using a Schmetz 9014 needle. We're not using a vintage rotary needle. We're using a Schmetz needle. And some beautiful, beautiful stitch quality with that first sew off. We'll kind of go across like this as well. So our long beak shuttle that I took out and I showed you how to clean it, I showed you how to thread it up. It's doing a beautiful job. That top stitch is what that shuttle is generating, and it's doing a spectacular job, doing better than I did in sewing straight. You see, I kind of sewed a little bit crooked there. We turn it over, we look at our lock stitch, an equally gorgeous lock stitch as well, using Jackie's Model 127 by White. This white rotary machine, a beautiful, beautiful lock stitch. And again, we're using a Schmetz 9014 needle. We're not using a vintage rotary needle. I've seen people on eBay trying to sell rotary needles, and they're wanting an arm and a leg for them. And now you know, if you've got a rotary machine, now you know you don't have to pay a ridiculous price to buy the vintage rotary needles for your dressmaker rotary style white machine. It will sew beautifully using a Schmetz 9014, which you can buy at any sewing center, or you can buy it at Walmart if you shop at Walmart, that sort of thing. Go ahead and put our presser foot down again. I didn't show you presser foot regulation. Sorry about that. This is our presser foot regulator right up here, this beautiful little cone thing. This is for our needle bar for lubrication. We got a little hole right there for lubrication. And we got a little hole right there for our presser foot bar. And we also can regulate our presser foot pressure by turning this clockwise to increase that force down, or turning it counterclockwise to decrease our presser foot pressure if we're sewing the delicate stuff, the silk, the satin, that sort of thing. We'll turn this counterclockwise. If we're sewing the leather, we're going to be turning this clockwise to increase that. But I think White had a lot of pride in taking what normally is just not really a pretty part of the machine, and they made it gorgeous, didn't they? They gave it kind of a contour, kind of a sexy line. They gave it that beautiful stainless steel, kind of a plated look to it as well. It's just gorgeous looking, and it's just pretty to look at. But yeah, lubricate this about every 10 hours of sewing. Put a drop of oil down this to lubricate that needle bar. Put a drop of oil down here to lubricate your presser foot bar as well, to keep it moving freely. Okay, so we did a beautiful sew off. This first one, we'll be doing some more sew offs, but I do want to just briefly talk about the threading of this machine, if that's okay with all of you. We'll talk about the threading, which can be a little bit tricky on this machine. We come off the top, off of our spool right there. We come through this thread guide right here. We kind of draw the thread from the left to the right. I'll show you from this angle, it'll make more sense. We kind of come underneath this little thread point right here, and then we come on the other side of this thread point right here. So we kind of come under, and then we come over and back this way. Kind of just wiggle it through there. Wiggle it through there. Now, when we get on this side, this is where it gets a little bit weird. We kind of come down the faceplate with the thread. Kind of looks like a busy avenue there, doesn't it? And it is. We come over there and we come down to our tension control center right here. I'm going to shut that light off for a moment because it's kind of glaring at us. We come down to this tension control center right here. Again, it's not using traditional tension discs. It's using this whole assembly with that thread behind there to press against it to maintain that lock stitch. And what we do is we have to, first of all, come underneath. I'm going to get as close as I can to try to explain it to you. We're going to come underneath this edge right here and draw the thread this way up into this chamber where our take-up spring is. Our take-up spring is housed right in this area right there. So we kind of come in underneath here. We come underneath. We come into this chamber where the take-up spring is, and we hold the thread on top, and we draw that thread against the pressure of the take-up spring so that it locks it in place. We've got to draw the spring up like you've seen me do on other assemblies, and I'll talk about that thread settling in like a little saddle area. Well, in this instance, it doesn't have a saddle per se, but when we draw that thread from underneath here up into that chamber, and we kind of pull it into that take-up spring to force it up, it's going to lock into that take-up spring, and then it's going to seat underneath here, underneath the edge of this plate. And that's what's going to regulate the tension for us. And make sure when you're doing this that your take-up arm is not down like I have it right now. It's got to be up all the way so that that pressure is relieved. You can actually see when I lower and raise it, you'll see this plate right in here kind of go. Right now it's away from the body. When I lower it down, it goes back into the body again to create pressure on that thread, that we seated. It actually goes underneath that plate area and it goes into that take-up spring. I hope that makes sense. When we come back up away from here, we've got it in the take-up spring. We're going to come up to our take-up arm, but instead of doing what would be natural, threading it from left to right, we actually thread it from right to left. And then we drop straight down from there. Look at that hodgepodge of threads. It looks like a real busy zone, doesn't it? We come down from there, and then we're going to be dropping straight down across the faceplate past our upper tension, and we have a single thread point right here above the needle. Right there. It's a little hook. It's a little hook right there. And then we're going to be threading the needle again from left to right with the flat side of the needle to the right. Okay? We thread from left to right with the flat side of the needle to the right. And again, when you're putting it in that needle socket, it's a very, very deep needle socket on this rotary machine. Make sure that you get the butt of the needle all the way to the very top of that needle socket area. You're going to have to push it probably a good 6 to 7 millimeters. Whereas with most needle sockets, you go in about 3 millimeters. It's twice that deep as far as getting that needle in there. And make sure as you're sliding it in that you keep the flat side facing to the right, because it's a needle socket that would potentially allow that needle to rotate. That needle could rotate, and then all of a sudden the flat side will be to the front or to the back instead of to the right. Make sure you maintain the integrity of that flat side to the right as you lock down that needle, okay? I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful kind of covering that, because it can be a little bit tricky, even for an experienced sewist. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our stitch length and I'm going to adjust this down. We're going to go for a shorter stitch. So I've got our stitch length controller right here. I'm going to bring us down to about 3. Bring it down, right about to there. I think that's a good place to stop, maybe up just a little bit. So now I'm going to be sewing a much smaller stitch. We've laid down a beautiful stitch, probably going to give us about, well, let's see here. I'm using my caliper again. See that? I'm using my caliper again. So how many stitches per inch do we have at that longest setting? 3, right around 6 stitches per inch. Right around 6 stitches per inch, measuring it with our mechanical caliper. So 6 stitches per inch is pretty standard with most sewing machines. You do have those machines that can get down to about 5 stitches per inch. Some of our Husqvarnas will do that. But this rotary by White gets us to right where we want to be, right around 6 stitches per. I better drink some tea. My tongue is sticking to the roof of my mouth. Hold on a second. All right, I just took a swig of tea. Hopefully my tongue will unstick from the roof of my mouth. All right, so now we're going to lay down another stitch. It's going to be considerably shorter. Hopefully we can maintain good stitch tension as we're doing it, okay? So here we go, another stitch off, 2 layers of 100% cotton with a stiffener, and we'll see how we do on this one. All right, here we go. Listen to this rotary motor, again, rated at 0.7 amps. It has such a cool roar to it as it comes to life. I just love the sound of it. And part of that is the pulley drive. The pulley drive is creating part of that magic. All right, here we go. I kind of stopped a little bit because with these rotary machines, they can sometimes keep running a little bit for a short distance with that pulley before it comes to a stop. And I wanted to put the brakes on before I went over the material too far. All right, let me give this a clip. We'll draw that thread back again. And we'll take a look at the next stitch line that we did. And I can do another measurement just so you know. I'm set on the stitch regulator right around 3. And we'll see what our stitches per inch are. But let's take a look at the stitching first. This is our top stitch. Take my glasses off because right now it's a blur. Folks, that's some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Very, very nice. Very, very nice stitching. Very, very nice stitching. Come on, camera. You've been focusing so well. You've been doing such a good job. Don't go crazy on us now. So a beautiful top stitch on Jackie's rotary model 127. Ignore the top row. I kind of sewed crooked a little bit. I did a lot better with a shorter one. We're going to turn it over now. Look at that lock stitching. Yeah, some beautiful lock stitching as well on that shorter stitch off. And if you ever see a tilting of the stitch a little bit, that's a tension factor where you may have to make a tension adjustment. If it's tilted on the bottom, you might have to increase your upper tension. If it's tilted on the top, you might have to decrease your upper tension. But all in all, we executed a very, very good looking stitch on both of these rows, this being our lock stitch and our top stitch as well. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Now, if we're going to get an approximate measurement using our caliper, see if we can do that. And I'll tell you approximately how many stitches per inch we're getting at the setting we are right now, which is, oops, there we go. That's an inch. So from here to here, we're looking at, let me see if I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're getting right around 10 stitches per inch with our setting of 3 on the stitch regulator. So obviously it can go much smaller than that, getting us down to right around 30 stitches per inch. Right now, we're about a third of the way. We're about a third of the way to the shortest stitch that Jackie's rotary machine can generate. Now, I'm not going to sew any more on the cotton. I'm going to throw that to the side. And now we're going to move over to some other materials. I thought I would sew some denim. I'm going to go ahead and do some denim first. I'll move my stitch regulator back to the longest length. And I think we're going to go ahead and do, let's see, this is 2 layers right here. This is 2 layers, 4 layers, and 6 layers. Now, the beauty of this rotary machine, if I try to slide 6 layers of denim underneath the presser foot, I can do it, but it's a little bit snug. It's a little bit snug. So the good news is this has a hyperextension that will blow your socks off. I'm just going to apply the hyperextension. Watch how high that presser foot can go for the thicker projects. All right, here we go. I'm probably gaining about 5 millimeters of clearance. So I'm going to go ahead and raise that hyperextension. And hyperextension means you're taking the presser foot lever and you're pushing it outside of the normal range that it would be to lock it into place. So I'm able to gain about another 5 to 6 millimeters of clearance to sew through thicker denim like this. Again, about 6 layers. We're going through about 6 layers of denim. If I'm doing a thick quilt or something like that, this rotary machine is going to be a sweetheart of a machine to give you that presser foot clearance that you need. Because on this rotary, you can't drop the feed dogs. That's a cheater's method. It's a hack that I talk about in other videos and other live streams, where if you don't have a hyperextension, sometimes you can drop your feed dogs and then you can gain about 3 millimeters of clearance. You can't do it on this rotary, but you don't need to, because you've got a presser foot that has that hyperextension, and you can gain about 5 to 6 millimeters very, very easily. So now we have it in place. We're going to go ahead and stitch down and do, we'll do a longer stitch. Now, if I don't have enough presser foot pressure, I showed you how to adjust that on top right here. If I don't have enough presser foot pressure, then I'm not going to get the full benefit of those 6 stitches per inch. It's probably going to be closer to 7, maybe 8 stitches per inch, because that feed factor is going to come into play when you're dealing with this many layers, right? Does that make sense? If you're not getting the proper feed, you're not going to get the proper stitch length. You might have it set on super long, but you're not going to get the full length of those 6 stitches per inch. It's not going to be feeding as it should. So you're going to be getting probably 8 stitches per inch or something like that. All right, but let's give it a try and see what we get. We'll do a quick measurement, and that way you'll know from experience and from observation whether our presser foot pressure for this sew off, which is a one-off, is enough or whether it was insufficient. I'm guessing it's going to be insufficient, but we'll see. All right, let me slide my chair back a little bit, and we will buzz down. I like to periodically just check to make sure everything stays tight. You just never know. All right, here we go. And let's see what we get. All right, here we go. Oh, you know what I just did? Oh, that's funny. Talk about, oh, that's funny. I was demonstrating. Oh my gosh, that's funny. It's funny. And I say it all the time. I say it all the time. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. I had been so fixated on wanting to show you the hyperextension. I was so fixated on the hyperextension that I launched into my sew off and I didn't put my presser foot lever back down. Ha ha! I didn't put my presser foot lever back down. So I'm looking at this thing feeding and I'm thinking, Jiminy Crickets, I knew it would be a little bit of a challenge, but not that much of a challenge. Well, with no presser foot, I was doing some free motion quilting. I was doing some freehand embroidery. Yeah, that's the deal. No, I goofed up, and that's okay. That's okay. Because right now I've got some presser foot pressure because it's so thick. I can't even get the material out. So I have to use that hyperextension to get it back out. And I probably almost hit 25 stitches per inch. I probably hit almost 25 stitches per inch because I didn't have my presser foot lever all the way down. It was just kind of skipping along with the thickness of the material. Oops. Oops. Well, that's okay. We'll do it again. I'm going to actually pull this apart. We'll start from scratch. See if I can rip this. Boy, that stuff is strong. I'm using my Coates & Clark dual duty XP thread. And because the stitching is so short, oh my goodness, really testing my hand strength here. There we go. Oh my goodness. We'll give it a little bit of a clip to help me out a little bit. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. See, if you focus on one thing too much, it can cause you to miss something else. Susie was telling me the other day she sat down to her machine. I don't remember if it was the Sashiko or whether it was her Kenmore, and she all of a sudden tried doing something and it just wouldn't work. I think it was bobbin winding on the Sashiko. And pretty soon Susie's going to present that Sashiko machine. It's designed by Baby Lock, and it's designed to allow you to hand quilt using a sewing machine. I think I almost got all the thread out. All right. But it's fun to see the wizard kind of goof up sometimes, isn't it? I've been told that by people around the world. They love that I do live streams and that I don't edit it. If I do something and I go, oops, you see it happen. You see it happen, and it's like that guy is really smart. He's really knowledgeable, but he's really human because he makes mistakes sometimes, like trying to sew without the presser foot down, which is great if you're doing free motion quilting, but not so great if you're trying to demonstrate a denim sew off. All right, let's try this again. Let's try this again, and I'll actually put the presser foot down this time. So I've got 2 layers, 4 layers, and 6 layers. We'll slide that in. I'll use the hyperextension to get it into place, and then I'll do something totally outrageous, like putting that presser foot back down. All right, there we go. So I've got it in the position. There's some pressure on the material, but not enough. So now I'm going to do something ridiculous and just wild and crazy, like put the presser foot all the way down. All right. So we'll try the same sew off with a little bit more presser foot pressure this time. All right, here we go. Get my take up arm. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Jiminy Crickets, I'm not doing so well here. It's one of those days. My denim like slipped way out of place, but that's okay. At least I had the presser foot down that time. Oh yeah, that looks a little bit better. But I know that because of the feed factor and not having enough presser foot pressure, and I probably should have used a little clip on the edge when you're dealing with this much denim. I should have used a clip on the end to kind of hold it together like that. And I kind of free armed it. I didn't do that. So yeah, there you go. But we got a better result this time than the first time for sure. All right, let me see if I can do a quick measurement. We'll see what our stitches per inch are right now with not having enough pressure foot pressure and me letting that material kind of slide out of position a little bit. And then we'll try another sew off with a shorter stitch. It's so much easier to sew multiple layers like this when you're using a shorter stitch length because the material isn't moving as rapidly, and it allows that pressure foot pressure to regulate that just a little bit better. So now in an inch, instead of getting our 6 stitches per inch, we got closer to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We didn't do too bad. We got about 7 stitches per inch. We're right about on an inch right now with the caliper. So we lost one of our stitches because there wasn't quite enough pressure foot pressure and because I allowed that material to shift as we were going through it. That material shifted, and the result was we ended up losing, instead of getting 6 stitches per inch, we got around 7 stitches per inch. Not horrible, but again, there's things we can do to try to prevent that. So now we're going to try it one more time. We're going to try, there we go, pressure foot is down. I'm going to try increasing our pressure foot pressure just slightly up here. We'll give it about 1.5 turns. That should help us a little bit. We turn this clockwise, about 1.5 to 2 turns. And now we're going to adjust our stitch length just slightly. Right now we're at the longest setting, but we certainly didn't get 6 stitches per inch. We got around 7. Now we're going to bring it down to about 3 again, like we did before. Now, when we brought it down to 3 before, we got right around 10 stitches per inch. I'm guessing that we're probably going to get closer to about 12 stitches per inch, but let's see what we get. But again, that's strictly a product of how the material is feeding. The feed dogs are going to do the same thing based on the setting every single time, but the mitigating factor is if our material doesn't feed evenly, we don't have enough pressure foot pressure, if our pressure foot itself isn't adjusted so that it's pressing evenly on that, in other words, the height of the pressure foot in relation to the material, then we're also going to have issues with feed as well. But it all comes down to feed when it comes to the stitch length that we get. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let me do this again. Yes, I have my pressure foot lever down. Haha, I do. Had to double check. All right, let's try this again. We should get around 10 to 12 stitches per inch, especially with us bumping up the pressure foot pressure a little bit. Let's see what we get. Here we go. See how much easier once you have a stitch line down, you don't have to deal with that puckering, the pivoting of the material. Yeah, it's so much easier. So much easier. All right, stop right there. Rotate my balance wheel forward. Rotate that balance wheel forward. I should say forward to the back, not forward. Rotate the balance wheel to the back. All right. Oh, yeah. We definitely shortened it up. And I might have moved the lever a little bit further down than I did the last time. Well, let's see how many stitches per inch we got. We're set right around, let me show you. We're set right around at the same point that we were before. Right around 3-ish, right in that realm. And when we were set in that approximate area the last time, we got around 10 stitches per inch. Got right around 10 stitches per inch. Let's see what we got this time. I know it's going to be quite a bit more. So I'm moving my caliper out to 1 inch. And I'm going to try to count these teeny tiny little stitches. I'll do my best. All right, get that into place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got right around 12 stitches per inch. So we did the longer stitch. We lost 1 stitch. We got 7 stitches per inch instead of 6. With this one, we lost 2 stitches, which considering the scale and the number of stitches we're laying down, that makes sense. So instead of getting 10 stitches per inch like we did the first time, on another material, we got 12 stitches per inch this time, sewing through 6 layers of denim. And it's just helpful to know that, so you know the impact that presser foot pressure can have as we're sewing through materials like this in multiple layers. It can really throw things out of whack if you don't have the right presser foot pressure. Try to pull that apart a little bit so you can kind of see across there. Some beautiful stitching, but we lost stitches because of the feed factor as we were sewing through this many layers of heavy grade denim. I mean, that's a fairly thick sew off if you look at it from the side or look at it from this angle. 6 layers of denim, that's the thick of thick, I think. We turn it over, we look at our lock stitching. Some beautiful lock stitching as well, which means our upper tension is doing a bang-on job, a spectacular job of regulating the tension through that many layers of heavy grade denim. Some beautiful, beautiful stitch quality, the spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. We're maintaining it very well. And again, if you joined us late, we're not using a vintage rotary needle. We're using a Schmetz 9014 needle going through these 6 layers of denim, generating a gorgeous, gorgeous stitch. Especially our top stitch is really, really popping out. I can't take anything away from the lock stitch either, though. That's also looking really quite spectacular as well. So 6 layers of denim, it's a serious sew off. And this rotary driven by that 0.7 amp motor is getting the job done very, very, very easily. Now, why don't we move from cotton and denim and let's move over to some canvas. We'll do some canvas sewing now. I'm going to adjust my stitch length back. Canvas, I think we're only going to do 3 layers of that is what I have set up. 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. We'll try a longer stitch first, and then we'll go to a shorter stitch. But regardless, it's a fairly thick sew off. That's what our canvas looks like with 3 layers. It's a fairly thick sew off. And canvas, as you know, is kind of it's got that Kevlar type surface to it. It's got that woven nature to it where it's going to resist that needle naturally. It's going to make that needle work to get through that material. So we'll try our long stitch, and then we'll try our shorter stitch, and we'll measure it again with a caliper. You can see the benefit of having a mechanical caliper. And maybe for some of our people that were identified as winning today because they typed an answer in the live chat and they got it right, maybe some of those people will get a mechanical caliper in the mail. You never know. I'm not going to say what I'm going to send at this point. I might send Dr. Singer, who knows? But I'll send something fun and something that you'll enjoy, I'm sure. All right, so 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas with Jackie's Model 127 Dressmaker Rotary by White Sewing Machine Company. Here we go. All right, take a look at this stitching, and then we'll reduce that stitch. And again, when you're sewing through a diverse field of materials like I do in these live streams, I don't just do a simple sew off and consider one is done. I use canvas, I use leather, I use cotton, even today we're going to be using Amazon packing parchment paper as well. We're going to be sewing paper today on this rotary machine as well. When you go through a wide, diverse field like that, you might have to make some adjustments to stitch length or to presser foot pressure. You just might. Yeah, some beautiful looking stitching. Again, maybe a little bit of a tension opportunity. Let me do the next stitch off, and then we'll look at these stitches with a little bit more scrutiny. Looks like we might need a little bit more upper tension on this canvas, on this U.S. Army grade canvas. All right, I'm going to move us back to 3 again on stitch length, and we'll see what stitch length we get. Hopefully you have enough presser foot pressure. So off camera, I'm adjusting our stitch length down to 3 again, approximately. And we'll try this next stitch off again, and then we'll use our mechanical caliper to see how we did. All right, here we go. I've got to stop it early, otherwise it'll overrun the material. It's just a very, very happy machine right now. Yeah, I think we're pretty close. It looks like when you're going through 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas like this, that much canvas, using a needle that's already gotten a pretty good workout, even though it's a Schmetz needle, we might have to do some tension adjustments if we were going to be sewing U.S. Army grade canvas all day long. We're going to be sewing it all day long. Let's look at that top stitching first. We'll look at that top stitching first, kind of scrutinize the stitch a little bit, and then we'll move on to looking at that lock stitch. So on some of these stitches going through 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, you can see just a subtle tipping. A subtle tipping means the stitch, instead of being straight across, is either up on the leading edge or up on the end edge of the stitch. And that's a product of tension. That's a product of tension. Let's get real close and look at them. But the stitch formation, the stitch presentation is spot on. So we might have to, if we're going to be sewing this a lot, like on this end right here, where we have some tipping of the stitches on the shorter scale, we might have to look at adjusting our upper tension a little bit down. The reason we would adjust our upper tension down a little bit is it would tighten up the top stitch because it gives more authority back to that long beak shuttle. See where some of those have just a slight tip to them? That means our upper tension was pulling a little bit too hard and stealing away from that long beak shuttle. But all in all, some beautiful stitching using our Schmetz needle. We're going to look at that lock stitching now. And here we'll see some tipping as well, which tells us that the tension was struggling a little bit on this sew-off, wasn't it? The tension was struggling a little bit. Also on the upper row where we sewed longer, we didn't have enough upper tension. You can see where that stitching on the lock stitching for both rows is a little bit underdefined. And you can see a little bit of the tipping on the smaller scale because it didn't have enough of that pull-up factor. There we go. So the tipping of the stitching is a tension factor. It's not a machine factor. It's not a needle factor. It's a tension factor. Look at it like this as well. Actually, it's harder to see that way on this canvas. We'll leave it like that. So some good looking stitching, but we could make it better. We could make it better by bumping up our upper tension to define that lock stitching better through these 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Our top stitching was a lot more spot on because that bobbin case was pulling down harder than the upper tension was pulling up. So we had a better looking top stitch than we did a lock stitch. Now let's measure that shorter stitch and see how many we got. See if we got pretty close to 10 stitches per inch. So I'm going to go back to my mechanical caliper again. I'm going to move it to 1 inch, right about there. And then we're going to count our stitches. All right, get that to stay in place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got right around 9 stitches per inch instead of 10. We lost 1 stitch again, didn't we? And that boils down to the feed factor, or the presser foot pressure, and the fact that we're sewing multiple layers of a material. It could be U.S. Army grade canvas. It could be any other material like the denim. When you go to multiple layers, if you don't have your presser foot pressure high enough, you're going to lose stitches per inch. You're going to lose stitches per inch. In this case, we lost 1 on the longer stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the longer stitch, we didn't lose a stitch this time. We landed right around 6 stitches per inch, and that's what we were aiming for, 6 stitches per inch. But we lost a stitch when we went longer because of, the repeat factor. It's executing many more stitches in a shorter space, so we ended up getting 9 instead of 10. Yeah. Hopefully those explanations are helpful to you and you understand the impact that presser foot pressure can have on your stitch length. If you want a longer stitch length and you're not getting it, you want to look at presser foot pressure right away. Or if you're like the wizard sometimes, you want to make sure you have the presser foot lever all the way down, right? Make sure you have the presser foot lever all the way down, or you're doing free motion quilting when you don't want to be doing that, right? All right. Let me get a quick drink of tea, and we're going to finish up this live stream going through some Amazon packing parchment paper. We're going to go through a variety of different leathers, including protected full grain leather, including Italian leather, including hardened leather, all with Jackie's Model 127. Okay, all with Jackie's Model 127 dressmaker rotary by the White Sewing Machine Company before they moved to Japan, and Juki started making similar models to what we're sewing on today, but they were made over in Japan. If you weren't here at the beginning of the class, now you know that for your midterm test, right? Now you know. Now you know. All right. Let me get a drink of tea and we'll start wrapping up this live stream. I'll have a little bit of music for you. If you joined late and it's your birthday this month, I'm going to put on the birthday song for you. I might even sing a little bit. You never know. Let me see what I can come up with. Hold on a second. There's my birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And to me, my birthday's coming up real soon. I'm going to be a year older, and based on today's live stream, I'm not putting the presser foot lever down. Maybe not a year wiser. Yeah, maybe not. All right, let me stop the birthday music. But again, I think birthdays are a big deal, not because you're getting older, but because it sets that milestone of you coming on the earth. I am a firm believer that when we are and I don't want to get overly Bible thumping on you, but I'm just going to say the scriptures talk about us being knitted in our mother's womb. When all of us are knitted in our mother's womb and we're eventually born and we step onto the earth, or we crawl onto the earth, or whatever it is that we do when we're little, when we're a little toddler, we all have unique gifts and talents that no one else on the earth has. We have gifts and talents that no one else has on the earth. And I think that makes a birthday that much more special, because without us on the earth, each one of us, we would be less. The earth would not be as special. The world would not be as special of a place. And so, when someone is born, they bring unique gifts and talents, and they bring the charm of whoever they are as a person to the world. And it just makes it that much more special. So at any rate, blah, 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 blah. Happy birthday to everyone in the month of January that's celebrating that milestone of stepping onto the earth and making the earth better, because you're here. And you have those unique gifts and talents that you can share with the entire world. Look at that, my little shadow of my glasses moving back and forth across the bed. That's fun. So yeah, I'm glad each and every one of you are here. Again, I don't look at audience size. Sometimes we have almost 2,000 people in a live stream. Sometimes we have much less than that. But those people that are there are bringing those gifts and talents. And if they share their knowledge and experience in the live chat, we're better because of it. Don't you agree? We're better because of each and every one of you that is in the live stream now. And we're better because each and every one of you that later watches this as a video and maybe shares a comment or steps into a live stream at another time and shares their experiences, their insights, we're better because of it. And it's really easy to step into the live chat.
That was easy.
Yeah, you'd be shocked how easy it is. So if you haven't stepped into the live chat, if you've never done it, whether there's 1,000 in the audience or whether there's 100 or whether there's 10, do that. Yeah, do that. I'm getting all kinds of weird notifications on the phone today. All right. So let's sew a little bit of leather now. Let's do some leather. And I think I'll start with some of this leather right here. This is going to be, it's going to be a cowhide type leather. We're going to go through 2 layers of it. I'll kind of show you what we're going to be sewing off on. Yeah, there it is. Now that is not an easy peasy sew off. That's probably about 8 ounces of leather, 6 to 8 ounces of leather. Now this is more of a supple leather, but it still has a high piercing threshold. You look at the nap on the back and everything. Yeah, let's try buzzing down that, see what we do. I'm not going to measure every stitch row or we're going to be here for a really long time. But we'll be able to visually see whether or not our presser foot pressure is enough for these 2 layers of this cowhide. It's kind of a dyed cowhide. So whenever you add chemicals to something kind of like that protected full grain leather, when you add dye to a leather, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult to get through. It kind of hardens that surface. So we'll see how this rotary does with that 0.7 amp motor in getting down these 2 layers of this genuine dyed cowhide. Sounds horrible to say dyed with cow because, you know, the cow had to die to get the leather. Any rate, I digress. And yes, I have the presser foot lever down. I do. All right, here we go. 2 layers of this cowhide that is dyed really kind of a pretty brown. All right, here we go. Let me make sure my take-up arm is all the way up. Ooh, we kind of stalled out a little bit there. That was fun. Ooh, we stalled again. I kind of took my foot off of the gas a little bit. That was a mistake. I'm kind of a little bit paranoid about overshooting the leather, and I should have just overshot the leather because I kind of stole its glory a little bit there. All right, let me push that presser foot lever up, and we'll take a look at this stitching, which looks like it's really quite spectacular on this leather. I could sew this leather all day long and make some beautiful, beautiful projects with it. Beautiful projects. Give that a clip. Give that a clip. I'll just give you a quick look of these stitches. They're really quite lovely. 2 layers of this cowhide leather. Try to keep my hand steady now. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful leather. And that's not the fault of the machine. That's my fault for letting up on the gas. I should have kept the gas going. When you're going through this much leather, look at that from the side. You're going through that much leather, you got to keep the gas on. You can't take your foot off the gas and expect the machine to idle through that much leather, especially with us sewing with a non-leather needle, right? But some beautiful, beautiful stitching. I'll get real close on it. Beautiful stitching. Kind of turn it around, look at that lock stitching as well. Go to the end and kind of walk our way across. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful stitching. So we're not having any tension issues right now. The tension issues when it comes to using a universal needle by Schmetz and applying it to leather, we generally don't have to battle the tension very much. Not even going through leather this thick. I'll kind of show you from the side again what we just went through with Jackie's machine. Once the camera decides to focus, I'll show you. There we go. So not a light sew off at all. That's a super heavy sew off. 2 layers of leather like this, and yet we maintain beautiful stitch integrity from top to bottom. Beautiful lock stitching. What we can see among the nap anyway. Beautiful top stitching. I'll go this way. It's easier to keep it straight. So just an absolutely gorgeous leather sew off with a non-leather needle and through 2 layers of this genuine cowhide that was dyed brown. I'm not sure why they dyed it, or maybe I don't know. Maybe the cow was brown. Maybe it was a brown cow. I don't think they dyed it at all. I think it was just a brown cow. Well, some beautiful stitching. I'll throw that to the side as well. Let's go through some more leather material. This is going to be, let me double check. Yeah, we haven't sewn this in a long time. We haven't sewn this leather in a very, very long time. This is genuine elk hide. And yes, we have elk in Kentucky, right on the other side of the mountain from where Susie and I live. We've got a good friend that is going to take us out in their side-by-side, their ATV, come springtime, and we're going to go out there and shoot some video that we can share with all of you of all of the elk that are just, I mean, spitting distance from the house here. We haven't had any in the backyard, but we got pretty much every other critter in the backyard. We even had a groundhog in the backyard the other day, and they're supposed to be asleep right now in Kentucky. So I don't know what, we apparently had a groundhog that had insomnia. And Susie discovered through some research that groundhogs, we most of us know that groundhogs are also called woodchucks, right? But did you know that there was another name for a groundhog that you don't hear very often? Maybe Susie will type it in the live chat. Otherwise, I'm going to say it. And I'll give you a big clue. Trying to whistle. The dogs are probably going crazy in the other part of the house, away from the workshop right now, saying, "That's Daddy whistling. Why is he whistling?" Because that's another name for a groundhog or a woodchuck. You know, if Susie's going to type it or not. She might not. She did type it. Did you know that a groundhog or a woodchuck is also called a whistle pig? Because they make a whistling sound sometimes. See what you learn when you come to school? When you come to the classroom? You learn all this cool stuff, not only about sewing machines, but about critters too, because the workshop here in southeastern Kentucky is surrounded by critters. We could type a list of all the critters that we've had it in the backyard. It's just mind-blowing. And one of the future live streams I'm going to do off the deck, facing some of the mountain ranges, so you can see the setting that we work and that we live in. It's amazing. Kentucky! If you've never been to Kentucky, you got to come to Kentucky. You got to come. But at any rate, back to elk. This is genuine elk hide. And this is a hardened type of leather. And it's thick too. Look at the thickness of that. Probably around 6 ounces of leather. So we're going to try to go through this elk hide and see how we do with that. And I'll try to stay on the gas this time and give Jackie's Model 127 every opportunity to succeed. Every opportunity to succeed. Get a little bit closer. There we go. So we're going to sew through elk hide now. And hopefully come springtime or thereabouts, our friend Terry will take us out in his side-by-side, and I'll be able to shoot some great video like I did of the bears, like I did of the birds, like I did of the foxes. And if you're saying, what are you talking about? We have all those videos on this channel that you can check out. I don't remember what the playlist is, but it's like Kentucky Critters, or I have no idea. But you got to check that out. We have a really cool video. It runs about an hour that I shot of a mama bear and her 3 cubs right behind the house here in southeastern Kentucky. Yeah, right outside of the workshop. So, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to bring some elk videos to you soon. All right, So here goes some elk hide, and we'll see how we do on this. And I'll try to stay on the gas this time. All right, here we go. Aha, I did better that time. One more stitch, and then I will stop. There we go. And that's what elk hide looks like if you wanted to make a wallet or a purse or a bag or whatever. I think elk hide is just gorgeous, don't you? Beautiful stitching on this elk hide, and that's our longest stitch. I could grab our mechanical caliper. I'm guessing it's probably around 6 stitches per inch. This is our lock stitching on the back. I'm going to clip this so we can look at it closer because we got a little bit of a nap factor, and it's harder to see it, isn't it? Harder to see it. But if you've never sewn leather before, doggone it, sew some leather. If you've never sewn elk hide before, sew some elk hide. Just really quite a spectacular leather to sew. It really is. All right, I'm finally there. Yeah, some really, really nice stitch presentation there. It looks like if we're sewing elk hide all day long, we might need a little bit more of that long beak shuttle pulling down to straighten our stitch even more. Generally, it's a very good looking stitch. And again, we're sewing with a non-leather needle. We're sewing with a 9014 Schmetz universal needle. So a leather needle would help us to straighten out that stitch even more so we don't have any tipping. The tipping on this is very, very subtle. But if we wanted to really, really get a nice, straight, solid stitch, we could go with a leather needle. Beautiful stitching, though. Beautiful. That's what we just went through right there. Not a light sew-off, folks. Not a light sew-off at all. And it's hardened leather. Elk hide is a real hard hide. There's our lock stitching on the back. Beautiful lock stitching as well as I pull it back. No tension, no major tension issues at all. But on the top stitch, we can scrutinize it and say, okay, we're not using a leather needle. We're not using a leather needle. And that might be part of the very, very, very subtle tipping that you can see on some of the stitches. It's very, very subtle. And using a non-leather needle could contribute to that, but I think it's really more of a tension factor. And all we would do is we would take our upper tension right here, and we would push it up just slightly towards the loose range so that bobbin case could pull down more and define that top stitch. Look at that. That's thick stuff. Very, very thick stuff. Jackie, you've got a heck of a machine here. A heck of a machine that your mom had picked out and that was in your family for so long. There's that threading zone again, that threading zone right there. I showed you how to do that. Hopefully you don't have any troubles because the book isn't real helpful. The book's not horribly helpful in doing that. All right, so I'm going to set our elk hide to the side and get another sip of tea. We're going to move to a leather vinyl mix. If you didn't know they made such things, they do. And there's certain names that people use. What do they call it? The faux leather. Faux leather, they sometimes call where you've got some leather and you've got vinyl mixed in with it. I think they call it a faux leather. Maybe that's something different. I'm not absolutely sure. But we're going to be sewing this leather vinyl mix and laying down some stitching on this as well. We'll go long, we'll go short, and we'll see how this rotary does in managing a sew-off like this. But first of all, I'm going to get a drink of tea so that my voice doesn't go away. I hope you're finding this live stream helpful. I've covered a lot of things in it. I've given you a lot of information to chew on and to share. The whole idea of the classroom is that we learn things here together, and then we take it out to our circles of influence, whether it's on Facebook or Pinterest or Etsy or a sewing class or a quilting retreat or whatever it is. And you sow that seed of information. You You sow that seed of information. Yeah, that's kind of fun. I'll put on a little bit of Japanese music since eventually the White Sewing Machine Company is taken over by Juki, and they start making machines similar to this dressmaker over in Japan. All right, I'm going to pause our Asian Japanese style music, and what I'm going to do now is see if we can sew down this vinyl leather mix. I'm guessing that someone that is working on a project where they can't necessarily justify the cost of pure leather, like some of the leathers you just saw me sew right now, this cowhide, this elk hide, or they're wanting to appeal to an audience where the price point's going to be a little bit lower, right? The price point's going to be a little bit lower. You don't want to use necessarily full grain leather or genuine cowhide. It's going to raise the cost of that project quite a bit. So you can go to something like this that from an appearance standpoint is still quite lovely. You know, this leather vinyl type material comes in a variety of different colors, slightly different textures. And so you can create a project that is spectacularly beautiful at much less cost and then charge less for it. So you can appeal to a wider audience, kind of like marketing and business 101, right? They talk about it on that program, the Shark Tank, all the time. They'll say to that person that's trying to get a loan from one of the rich people, well, what is your per unit cost? How much does it cost you to make this product, whatever it is? And if the price point is too high, they've got to look at another way of making it so that that investor can make their margin in the investment, right? It's basic math. You know, if you're making a product and it's too expensive, people might not buy it. You're not going to sell it. You're not going to make any money. So you got to look at those factors. And that's where something like this might come into play, where you're making a product and someone is more concerned about how it looks than the fact that it's pure leather. They might go with something like this. So it might give you that option to sell to a wider audience, sell more items, make more money. Yeah, who knows? But right now, all we're going to do is sew it. So I'm going to see how this white rotary dressmaker gets through this material. We'll see. All right, I'm going to give her a launch and listen to this rotary run again. I think they have such a unique roar to them when they run. A lot of fun. Here we go. Aha, I stopped in time. Thank goodness. I stopped in time. And again, as I'm getting ready to remove this sew off, I'm going to rotate that balance wheel to the rear, not towards me. I'm going to rotate it to the rear a little bit to loosen that thread up around the hook. All right. We'll give this a clip and we'll take a look at this sew off. And we'll do the same sew off. We'll just reduce the stitch length a little bit and see how we do as far as maintaining the stitches per inch. Let's give you a quick little peek at this. Yeah, really, really lovely. Very, very nice sew off. Very, very beautiful sew off. And you can see as you change between materials, and this is not a thin material. Look at that vinyl and leather mix. That's probably about almost 8 ounces of thickness. But because you're dealing with leather and vinyl, we don't have any of those tipping problems right now with the tension. I haven't changed the tension at all. And whereas we struggle a little bit with some of those double layers of leather on this vinyl leather mix, we've got an absolute page 34 stitch. It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. No tipping, no tilting of the stitches. The stitch presentation is just absolutely spot on. How do we do on the lock stitch? Let's turn over and look at the lock stitch. That is unbelievably gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely spot on lock stitch. So our upper tension, the way we have it threaded, the way we have it set, it's doing an absolutely gorgeous job in maintaining stitch integrity and stitch tension as well. Our lock stitch is just as bang on as our top stitch. Gorgeous? Gorgeous. Yeah. And again, the thickness with this leather vinyl mix, look at that thickness. That's some thick stuff, folks. And yet we executed a beautiful stitch off on it with Jackie's Model 127. Now we're going to shorten that stitch length a little bit. We'll just buzz down one more time. Off camera, I'm going to move us back to that position 3 approximately. See if we can get around 10 stitches per inch. We only have a single layer of material, so we're not having to struggle as much with that feed factor. And we'll buzz down and see how we do. Again, we can put our mechanical caliper to use again. Here we go. I had my foot kind of on and off the foot controller there, so sorry about that. All right, let's give that a quick pull. Yeah, we'll see how we did with our shorter stitch. We should be around 10 to 12 stitches per inch, hopefully closer to 10. And that means that our presser foot pressure is doing a great job, but I'll show you the stitch first before we actually measure it. But I think that this vinyl really presents the stitch when the camera focuses. I think this vinyl leather mix really does an excellent job of presenting the stitch, don't you? Some beautiful, beautiful stitching. See if I can do it sideways. I like showing it both ways because you get a certain perspective depending on the angle of the stitching. Isn't that lovely, lovely stitching? So if you're looking at a project and you're looking at the cost factor, maybe you're selling it. Maybe you're doing it as a sideline or as a business, as a home business or whatever. You could always go from straight leather to a vinyl leather mix, and you might be able to reduce your unit cost and either make a bigger margin of profit or be able to offer it to the public at a lesser cost and sell more of them, right? Beautiful, beautiful stitching. The long stitch, the short stitch, shorter stitch, really quite lovely. There's our lock stitching on the back with a little bit of lint. See if I can get over here. We'll start on the end. Folks, that is absolutely page 34 stitching. This vinyl leather mix is really quite a lovely, lovely material to present your stitch quality on, isn't it? Really quite spectacular. Really, really nice. So that's our lock stitching again through this vinyl leather mix. It's not thin at all. It's thick, thick, thick. But this rotary Model 127 just laid down some absolutely gorgeous stitching, top stitching and lock stitching on this vinyl leather mix. So yeah, check your local fabric store or wherever you buy your material, see if they have something like this available, and you can try it on one of your machines. See what you think. You might be able to create something gorgeous at a much lesser cost. Okay? All right. Let's move into, let's see here. Why don't we go to the light side? We've been going on the heavy, heavy side. Why don't we do a little bit of this? I know it's past Christmas time. I get that. But I still love all the leather got on there. The leather droppings, as I call them, got all over the velvet. There we go. So it's still fun to sew Christmassy type looking materials, even though we're in the new year, right? So this is some vintage velvet, And I don't remember where I put the spool. I put it somewhere. Here it is. Some vintage velvet that's a combination of velvet and I believe it's got some polyester or something like that on the back. Got a real slippery backing. And this was sold originally at Target for $1.29. $1.29, 6 feet of it. I don't think you'd find 6 feet of wreath, gift, and tie ribbon, velvet, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you'd find it at Target or anywhere else for $1.29 anymore. 2.5 inches wide, really quite lovely stuff. And it's always fun to sew it too, especially if we move into some of those machines like we had recently that have that that decorative ornamental stitching built into them, either through the cam like on Candido and Rachel's machine, or even some of the computerized ones lay down some beautiful, beautiful stitching. And that would be a great way to showcase some of that stitching on material like this. So, but I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half so we don't have to contend with this super slippery side against those feed dogs. We'll put velvet top, velvet bottom. I'll kind of pinch it together a little bit, and we'll see if we can lay down some stitching on this. I'll do it with a shorter stitch and a longer stitch. And I did do a little bit of test sewing off camera, and I already know that in order to get a proper lock stitch doing the velvet, I'm probably going to have to bump up our upper tension just a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to get a loosey-goosey lock stitch. Matter of fact, before I bump it up, I'll stitch a line. We'll look at it, and then we'll bump up the upper tension, and we'll see what impact we can bring to tighten that up, okay? So we'll go like we are. I got to bring my take-up arm up. It's way, way down right now. Got to bring our take-up arm up, and then we'll try launching with the current upper tension setting. Current upper tension setting. Bring the camera a little bit closer. My cardboard box is doing a pretty good job so far. That's what I have the camera on right now. All right, so 2 layers of vintage velvet. And I'm anticipating that our lock stitch on the bottom side is going to be loose. We're going to have to bump up our upper tension, but let's see what we get. All right. All right, here we go. All right, one more stitch. There we go. It's so much muscle memory to rotate the balance wheel to the front. I have to stop myself midstream sometimes. Yep, it's exactly what I anticipated. I'll show you in just a second. So if you're sewing real light like this, we didn't change the presser foot pressure because this has a little bit more rigidity to it, the velvet, with that polyester type backing, and it doesn't tend to have any issues with puckering. So I didn't change the presser foot pressure. If we were dealing with a silk or satin, I would probably have to adjust that presser foot pressure down so that we didn't get puckering, but it's not an issue here. Look at our top stitch. Our top stitch is absolutely as it should be. Gorgeous, no tilting, no tipping of stitching. It's just absolutely breathtaking, right? Beautiful top stitch. But we get a different story when we turn the material over and we look at that lock stitching through these 2 layers of vinyl that have that slippery vinyl type backing on it. That vinyl backing really creates issues for our thread and for our needle. Look at what we got. We had a couple little points where kind of, okay, I'm the engine that can, I'm the engine that could. Little bit right there. Okay. And then it's like, woo. See how loosey and loopy it is? It's telling us our upper tension is losing. Our upper tension is losing the battle. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We get our material back in place and we go to our upper tension and say, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I'm going to help you now. And I'm going to help you by moving our lever down because we need more tightness, don't we? Right now we're on right around 2. You see that on the side, that little notch point? We need to move it almost all the way down to 3. So I'm going to start moving it down right about to there. And that might not be enough. If we were sewing this velvet type Christmas material with that vinyl backing, if we were sewing it all day long, we might have to go to 3.5. We might have to go almost max it out. Or if we can't get enough tension for our lock stitch, we might have to go into our long beak shuttle, and that little screw in the center that I showed you, we might have to turn that back a little bit. If we can't get what we want here, we got to go down to here and adjust our long beak shuttle. But hopefully this will do it, at least enough that we can see the result and the impact. We have a beautiful top stitch. Now we're trying to tighten up that lock stitch on the bottom. And we just bumped up our tension from 2 all the way up to 3. So let's see what impact we brought. Here we go. I'm going to hand turn these. I'm so close to the edge. I'm like, I don't want to overrun it. I don't want to overrun it. All right, let's see what impact we brought. And hopefully we didn't take too much away. Oh, we did. Look at that. You can see the opposite effect. This is a great lesson. We had a beautiful top stitch. I decided to take us from 2 to 3. We took away our top stitch now. Let me adjust the camera. Look at our top stitch now. We went from this, which was gorgeous, to this. But I bet you our lock stitch tightened up, at least some. Yeah, it did for the most part. This is the impact we brought from this to this. So we're heading the right direction, but we went too far, didn't we? We went too far. And the other factor is our needle is getting a little bit more tired with all the leather sewing. So I'm just going to point at the needle and say, yeah, it could be contributing. But the lesson we learned is that if we're trying to achieve a better lock stitch down here, we can do that. But if we go too far, we sacrifice the top stitch. So we're going to adjust it from 3 to 2.5, and we'll sew it one more time to see how close we can get. So I'm going to take our lever here. I'll move it from 3 up to right around 2.5. And we'll see if we can find a happy balance. We might not be able to find a happy balance. And it might be the needle. It might be the thread we're using in relation to the needle. It could be our long beak shuttle doesn't like it. It's hard to say. But we'll see if we can get it a little bit closer on the top and on the bottom. This is what we have right now. We'll see if we can adjust it up. This is our lock stitch. I've got to put it like this. All right, let's get that back in place. We'll try it one last time with our vintage velvet. We started out with a gorgeous top stitch. We adjusted it to try to enhance the lock stitch because the lock stitch was just horrendous. And we ended up getting us closer. That's a beautiful lock stitch. Wait, where are we? Let me try that again. The camera was pointing wrong. Okay, so we started with a great top stitch, but our lock stitch was really underdefined. That's it right there on this side right here. That's our lock stitch. So we ended up adjusting our upper tension. We lost our top stitch. Look at that. We took away and we went from a great top stitch to a very, very underserved top stitch. We got our lock stitch back though. See that? We went from a lock stitch that was underdefined over here to a poppy lock stitch, but now we need to adjust it back so we can get our top stitch back. We don't have a top stitch. What's the point, right? So we're going to see if with adjusting it from 3 to 2.5, we'll see if we get more of a happy balance between the two. Okay, more of a happy balance. All right, here we go. See how you overshoot it? Because that pulley just keeps going. You got to kind of put the brakes on a little bit earlier, Scott. A little bit earlier. Okay, let me take that out. Let's see how we did. So this is our last stitch off right here. It looks like we have our top stitch back. Let me adjust the camera more. We started here. This is our top stitch again. We started here. Absolutely beautiful. We gave, we reduced it so we could get some of that lock stitching. We lost our top stitch. We went from 3 here back to 2.5, and there comes our top stitch back again. See that? Started with it, lost it, got it back. But now it'll be curious to see what does our lock stitch look like on this upper row. I'm going to point it down. Kind of a hit and miss. That's telling me it's probably the needle on this material. Our universal needle is not real happy with this velvet, these 2 layers with the inside. But we're starting to get it back slow but sure. We don't have the emphasis that we had here, set at 3. We went to 2.5. It's kind of hit and miss. But the big factor here is not what we get, because we're not going to be selling this velvet unless somebody wants to buy it. Somebody wants to buy this piece of leather or a piece of velvet, I'll sell it to you. But the point is to teach you how to manage that tension factor and how to get a result where you get something great you're starting with, you lose it, you get it back. So it's a lesson. It's not necessarily we're trying to make money selling this velvet unless somebody wants to buy it. I'll let Susie type a price in the live chat and what we'll sell it for. So velvet's a tricky material to work with, just like the silks and satins, especially when you're dealing with a certain type of setup with a needle, certain type of hook system, like on this long beak shuttle. But the end result is we learned a valuable lesson on how to manage that upper tension so that we can get a great result. We can get a great result. Yeah. All right, I'm going to throw this velvet to the side next to our leather and our denim and our cotton and everything else. I'm going to move our upper tension back to 2 instead of 2.5. There we go. Move our upper tension back to 2. And what do we have left? I've got a little bit more leather we could sew, but I think since we're going on almost 3 hours for this live stream with all the stuff that I've covered, we covered a lot of territory in this live stream so that you're better educated, you're smarter on the rotary system, the long beak shuttle. The threading of the rotary machines can be tricky. I've covered that as well. We've talked a lot about maintenance. We've talked about a lot about measuring and using a mechanical caliper to verify and solidify things. Why don't we just move into some Amazon packing parchment paper? I'll end that final sew off with this live stream, and we will come together again soon, hopefully. Hopefully I'll be able to get this 99K that also belongs to Jackie done pretty soon, and then we'll be able to present her other machine before the two of us meet back up again, and we get these machines back in Jackie's hand so she can put them to use on some fun projects. But I hope you've been impressed overall with how this dressmaker by the White Sewing Machine Company has done today. Again, this machine is probably from the early to mid 1940s. It's really quite a spectacular machine with a unique setup. And again, with that pulley-driven motor, you don't have to replace a belt. You can enjoy the benefits of that pulley for a very, very long time and not be concerned about belts slipping. You just put it to use and have fun. Just have fun. Okay? So let me get some Amazon packing parchment paper underneath that presser foot. We'll adjust this down. We'll do our count off, starting with just 2 layers. I'm going to go up to 4 layers and 6 layers and 8 layers and 10 layers. Maybe I can fold it a little bit smaller and even get 12 layers out of this. Let me see what I can do with this. So we got 2 layers. Maybe if I fold it like that, it'll help. 2 layers, 4 layers, 6 layers, 8 layers. Yeah, the most I'm going to get out of this piece is 10 layers, but 10 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. That's what that looks like. That's a pretty thick sew off. So we're going to give this a try. 10 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper with Jackie's Model 127 rotary machine by White, the Dressmaker, as it was referred to. But again, Dressmaker can create a little bit of confusion because there's a lot of companies that use that name. They use that name quite often. So let's buzz down these 10 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. I want to thank the leadership team for taking such great care of the family. It's great to have Teresa and Tim back. Teresa, a while back, went through a serious operation, and she seems to be doing much better. We're so pleased with that, and hoping that the two of them will be able to come out and join us again in Kentucky. You know, it's just fun. It's fun to have folks come out here and see where we're at now. A lot of folks came to Oconto back in the day, and they had a chance to enjoy that beautiful city of Oconto and the Bay of Green Bay and all that sort of thing. Now you can come out here and wrestle a bear with us. I think that's kind of cool. So anybody that wants to get a hankering to come out and visit us and wrestle a bear or chase a coyote or cuddle with a fox or stare at a whistling pig, a groundhog, yeah, let us know. We'll see if we can accommodate you. Okay? God bless you all. I'll put on a little bit of music as we go down the Amazon packing parchment paper, and I'll certainly show you the stitching before I end the live stream. So God bless you all. Thank you, Jackie, for the opportunity to have this fabulous dressmaker rotary in the workshop. I'm going to be focusing next on your 99K and taking care of all the wiring issues there and getting that machine running like it's brand new, better than brand new. So take care. We'll see you soon. I'm going to put on some music, and yeah, we'll see you again soon. I think I said that once already. I need some coffee. Susie, I need some coffee. Let's go get some coffee. Ha ha ha. All right. Let me see what I'll put on. Dance music, polka music, German music, royal music, ragtime. Let's do some ragtime. Let's ragtime it. Here goes some ragtime music. I think there's some music, maybe. Beautiful. Beautiful stitching. Oh my gosh. Layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. All right, take care, everybody. I'll end the live stream in just a little bit.